welcome to Sid Caudle, Christian People's Alliance. And Thursday's the big day. Don't know how quick the results will come. Is it an overnighter or is it the next day, Sid?
I would expect it to be overnight. Yeah. Hopefully they'll start counting the ballots immediately. We won't have a situation like Los Angeles where a week later they're now on 75%, and it's
I know we do, as you know, two programs a week with the states. And I get in trouble by mentioning, how can you go that long without getting a result? It's open for persuasions, let's say,
well, it's
fiddling around.
I reckon they actually found in a safe a whole load of ballot papers. It's like, yeah. I mean, if they don't get the result they want, they add in the ballot papers till they do, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, the guy was Steve Hilton, I think, who was a Republican who was going to go in the runoff with the existing Democrat governor. And it was gradually over time they brought in more and more ballots until he was defeated, and then the runoff is between the existing governor and somebody else on the far left.
Yeah, yes. Well, it's California. One shrugs one's shoulders. It was also pointed out to me that in the morning, this wouldn't happen in UK, of course, it's against the law, but they still allow polls. And the idea is to get a poll out saying, oh, you're in the lead by so many points. And that completely disenchants the opposition and they don't bother turning out because, oh, we're going to lose anyway.
Yes, no, well, look, I think is what's happened in Makerfield, because I don't actually believe the polls, but they've been producing polls now. I mean, the Survation poll had Andy Burnham 10% in the lead. And, obviously, if you're 10% in the lead, you think, oh, what's the point when, no, we got no chance. Whereas if they'd have had Reform 3% in the lead or something, it's like, oh, come on, we've got to work like crazy. We can win this. We're very close. Let's push hard. Because obviously, if an opinion poll comes out and you're 10% behind, it's dispiriting, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mentioned yesterday on our sister program that I think there's 100 different scenarios out of this lot. And I do hope the people of Makerfield see how important it is and
Yeah.
not go to party political lines, which of course would get Starmer out, get Burnham in. But quite honestly, Sid, should they be thinking of the country rather than party politics?
Well, absolutely. But you see, the thing is, if Andy Burnham was like, would make fantastic MP, and whatever happens, we need him to come in and take over from Starmer because Starmer's been a disaster. I mean, if that was the situation, you'd say, yeah, come on, we got to get Andy Burnham in. He's going to make a really good MP. But it's quite the opposite. I mean, we now have a situation where he's done 6 U-turns. I mean, he's like telling the WASPy women, I'm behind you. I've always been behind you. I'm going to make sure that you're compensated. And then 2 days later, he's like, no, we can't afford to do that. We can't compensate the WASPy women. It's just like exactly the same as Starmer. 6 U-turns now in the last month. And
Yeah,
another one's immigration. It's like open borders. Whatever. We've got to welcome people here, welcome immigrants. And the next minute, it's, oh, well, I agree with Nigel Farage. I think we've got to control immigration and stop the boats. You just think EU, same with EU. I want us to go back into the European Union. And then it's like, no, we've got to accept Brexit. Brexit's a decision that's been made and we've got to accept it. We can't go back on Brexit. It's just like, which Andy Burnham is going to turn up. Someone like that, you cannot trust them to be Prime Minister. I'm sorry, but you can't.
well, I mean, all we hear about is the buses of Manchester. And yes, it's made a difference having the tram lines, etc. But people overlook nearly £200 billion worth of debt.
Well, yes, I mean, he hasn't managed the finances well, has he? And it's the other thing, by the way, which I find very amusing this week is that I noticed today Keir Starmer is saying Oh no, no, no! If Andy Burnham gets elected, he mustn't launch a challenge straight away. I warn him against launching a challenge. And he said last week, he said it several times. You know, if we have a leadership election now for the Labour Party, it'll throw the country into confusion. And there's one Labour MP said, "What you mean, more confusion than we have now?"
Is that possible? Yeah, I mean, we've got to go really to the G7 meeting. Of course, there's plenty of footage showing Sir Keir in the background being sort of left out of the conversations. Has it been over-egged? That's it.
Well, the thing is, Keir Starmer is trying desperately to improve his image. And he's not focusing on running the country well and achieving success, policy success and turning around the economy. He's not focused on any of that. He's just focused on his image. And you can see all the time, it's like today's headline. What are we going to get in today's headline? And we've had several headlines about banning under 16s from social media. It wasn't just one headline, it was just like almost like Keir Starmer has announced he is going to ban under 16 from social media. He's going to defend children. And this is the headline for the day, again and again and again. And to be quite honest with you, I don't care, frankly, that much. I mean, I don't honestly think that they're going to succeed in banning under 16 from social media, even if they pass a law. So I think the whole thing is complete nonsense, frankly. Are the police going to be turning up at the homes of loads of under 16-year-olds and saying, "We found that you've been on social media, we're arresting you"? It's nonsense, isn't it? I mean, frankly. But all the time he's just trying to manage the media, manage tomorrow's headlines. The reality is the economy is in a terrible, terrible state. And they're actually saying, I saw one article of Andy Burnham, you need to pray you don't win Makerfield, because if you do win it, you're going to inherit a situation where debt is so terrible and tax is so high, growth is anemic, the economy is in a complete mess, inflation is likely to continue to rise, and you're better off, frankly, not inheriting an economy in the state it's in at the moment.
There are certain things that are creeping up on the rails at the moment regarding what the British voter is looking to vote for. One of the things now is defence. I mean, it's pathetic, Sid, where we are. And I, for one, are not going to let the Tories get away for this, because it's been bad for a long time. And the Lib Dems. They're easy to say, "Oh, we're on the way back." But I don't know whether I want them, because you can't blame everything on Starmer. He's made it worse. But we've got no army, no navy, no air force. It's an embarrassment.
Yes, you see, I think the mistake there, frankly, in my opinion, is we spent too much on nuclear weapons. I mean, I actually heard it said that the only thing we've got now that's up to date is our nuclear deterrent, nothing else. And to be spending billions on something which you're incredibly unlikely to ever use seems to me folly, when the result is that you haven't got enough ships and you haven't got enough aircraft, and we've got no missile shield to shoot down any incoming missiles. And it seems as though our conventional forces are in a terrible, terrible state. And to me, our priorities have been wrong in defence. And obviously, it's not just Labour, it's been the Conservatives over a long period of time. I mean, for a long time, they were talking about the peace dividend. It's because we've now got peace in the world, and we can afford to spend less on defence. And this is the dividend that we have to inherit. But that's not the situation now. The situation now has changed dramatically, with Russia making a lot of threats to the UK, as well as even this week having a frigate in the English Channel, which was shooting on a yacht in the Channel. A Russian frigate in the English Channel. And you think, you can't imagine that. Even 10 years ago, a Russian frigate in the English Channel. it's we are in a situation where, more than ever, we need our navy.
We do. We're an island. We always have needed our navy over the centuries.
Hmm.
They fought many, many wars and won, of course. But here we are, more than any other nation, needing a navy. Apart from Japan, they've got a similar work out there with shoreline and mileage, etc. It's absolutely essential. Now, thinking of naval gazing, let's call it, we've got to look at what happened. And I know it's going back a fortnight with Henry and the fallout over that. And one has to consider that the police are involved, have been involved for a long time in lots of dodgy situations. It could have been the actual grooming gang situation, the cover up, inverted commas. But why I say inverted commas, perhaps I'm being too kind. They knew what was going on. Sir Keir Starmer, when he was head of CPS, knew what was going on. Now, you've got to be careful, Sid, because there's certain people on Twitter, X, that are saying, oh, well, he told the local constabulary to send out warning notices to these rapists. Now, that's never been proved, and it's where these conspiracy artists let themselves down. They just go a little bit over the top, and they're not seen and they're not as being reality. But never mind whether he issued or not these notices. The fact that nothing was done, it was a cover up because they, A, were frightened to death of being called racist, and B, they wanted the vote. Now, how can people vote for a party like that?
Yes, I mean, this government's record on immigration is terrible, frankly terrible. And they announced before the election that they were going to smash the gangs. This is our policy, smash the gangs, and we're going to introduce a new quango. It's going to be the border authority, and the border authority is going to get everything under control. We'll smash the gangs and everything will be under control. Vote Labour. And the reality has been they haven't even attempted to smash a single gang. I mean, there's somebody else that I was reading about the other day who'd managed to infiltrate one of the gangs in France, pretending to be somebody who wanted to cross the channel and wanted help. He easily located who the people were who were running the show and doing it, and managed to take photographs and whatever. If they had the will to really get to grips with these gangs, they could do, but they don't want to. They're not interested. And this border authority is just an utter waste of money, like most of the quangos. I mean, they've introduced 28 new quangos, and I don't think any of them are actually achieving anything. I mean, 7 of them are environment quangos, like your net zero quango. I mean, in my view, the net zero quango is doing much more harm than it is good. Yet it's costing the taxpayer millions of pounds to run it. I mean, the whole thing is a farce. And yes, I mean, this government literally doesn't know what it's doing and is talking a good job, but reality is a terrible job.
What advice would you give to Nigel Farage, harking back a little bit to Makerfield? Because he's got an unknown guy there, the plumber, the plucky plumber, as he's called, and it's not a big name. Now, if he throws the kitchen sink at it, well, he's not done that. He would have got a big name. But perhaps he saw all the way along that it was very dodgy, Makerfield. Too much of a chance. What advice would you give him?
Well, I mean, I think you've got to go with your local candidate. I think that's the right thing to do. I mean, in the Denton by-election, they had a guy from GB News there who was better known, but he didn't win the by-election. I mean, he got a good vote, but didn't win it. But having said that, Makerfield is a much better area for reform. I mean, because they voted 67% in favour of Brexit. in the local elections, they won every ward in the constituency by, and some of them by quite a considerable margin. So I think there's every reason when you are got local councillors there, that are experienced, that are campaigning in the constituency. It's much better to have someone like that standing than to bring somebody in from London or something, that hasn't got any connection with the constituency. I think they're likely to get less votes. So I think they're right to have a local candidate. But in terms of policy, I think the correct policy with what we're talking about is to say that you're going to put the Royal Navy into the Channel and secure the border. And you're going to continue to allow legal immigration, but legal immigration has to go through the proper channels, and we need to know who people are that are coming in. And by the way, while we're talking about this, we had somebody this last week. I was talking about somebody who'd infiltrated the gangs, and one of the people they found when they infiltrated the gangs was that there was a guy who was coming over in the boats, and they just said to him, why aren't you staying in France? Why do you want to go over to the UK? And he said, because the UK authorities don't know about my criminal past. So that's why I want to get to the UK. And it's like, what? I mean, it mirrors Donald Trump saying, oh, they're just emptying the jails and just sending them here. And, and you hear him say that and you think, oh, come on, he's exaggerating. And then you find out, well, that's exactly what's happened. You've got criminals sent here from other countries. I think this guy was actually from Egypt. Sent here from Egypt because they don't want him in Egypt, so send him to the UK. I mean, it's just a farce. And we've got to know who these people are and stop all illegal immigration. Simple.
Well, they don't want to, Sid. You've got to, realise this. Everybody's got to realise this. If they wanted to, they could bring back a Rwanda situation or a Scottish island. And they'd soon stop coming over knowing where they would have to go.
I was totally in favour of the Rwanda scheme, totally in favour of it. But, in my view, you put the Royal Navy in the Channel and you just basically say you shall not pass. I mean, Trump has managed to stop all illegal immigration into the United States with a 2,000-mile land border. And it's much harder to police a 2,000-mile land border, that's with Mexico. It's much harder to police a 2,000-mile land border with Mexico than it is to police a channel. We're an island. It's much easier to stop people crossing an ocean or crossing a channel than it is to stop people crossing a land border.
Yeah. The other thing that is coming up again on the proverbial rails is the police. People are losing faith in the police. Two-tier policing. Well, I don't think it is. I think it's three-tier policing. We, at the moment, are waiting to do an interview with Siobhan White. She was the lady with the daughter, Rhiannon, who got stabbed many times with a screwdriver in the head. And she had a lot of good to say for the police because they looked after her in their social security role, let's call it. Police are spending too much time in this. Where are the social services? But there you go. She praised them. On Sunday, she turns up to a protest in Brighton, which is hardly the best place because there's some unusual people in Brighton, especially from the Green Coloured Party. And she gets thrown to the ground by a police. I've seen the footage because they were holding banners, Sid, saying Rhiannon brought it on herself. Now, can you imagine that awful statement? These are the lefties that have got no conscience. She didn't do anything physical, but protested as a mother, and she was thrown on the ground by the police. Wow.
Yes, that's your two-tier policing. And it is absolutely, utterly disgusting. And you see with Christian street preachers, who somebody complains, this person says something I don't like, and the police turn up and just arrest. And this is what happened, by the way, in the Henry Novak situation. I mean, all that happened was that the police got a telephone call saying this person's insulted me. That's all it was. This person's insulted me. That's all they said on the phone. And the police said, "Okay, we're coming. You're Sikhs, are you?" Yeah. He was. And they said, "Oh, he's been racist." Okay, we're on our way. They arrive, and where's the racist? Oh, I've been stabbed. I don't think you have, mate. We've come to get you because you've been racist. No sense that, well, we've got to find out the truth here. We've got to be impartial. We've got to find out what's gone on. Nothing like that. Just, we believe the person that's made the complaint and we support, whoever complains. And the thing is, you see, Christians, by and large, don't complain to the police about, you know, Greens or people who are woke. We don't phone up the police and say, "Oh, this person's insulted me. Please come round." I mean, I remember when I was at Speaker's Corner, the police were actually there and actually said to me, "Oh, this guy's just assaulted you. Do you want us to to file a case?" And I said, "No, I don't. I'm fine. Let him insult me as much as he wants. I don't care." And it's just like Christians don't say, "Where are the police? We've got to call the police," and we just get on with it. If somebody insults us, we insult them back. If it's appropriate. I mean, when I say insult them back, I mean like Jesus said to the scribes and Pharisees, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You're like whitewashed tombs." I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying something like that to somebody who is being deliberately provocative, but we don't start hitting them or punching them or saying, "Oh, call the police and get them arrested." We just don't do that. But that's what they do. They attack Christians, and the police, instead of being impartial, just side with whoever's complained. It's just nonsense, utter nonsense.
There's several things going on around the world at the moment, actually, around what is known as conscious and unconscious bias, not just in Britain. The DEI brigade, the racism brigade, had got into many, many companies throughout the world, but especially in Europe and the United Kingdom. And it's a business. And the business outsources these people, Sid. No, they're not recruited, they're outsourced. And anything could go on and does go on. Now, if you can imagine, because I repeat, this channel is continually going on about this, which may not sound significant, but jolly well is. It's affecting all our lives. You've got these people saying madness, basically, and this is being taught in police colleges. That, you've got to be careful, everybody, because racism is the key thing. You can't cross the proverbial red line. And they've got it both ways. How can they lose? It's either conscious bias, where you call somebody black in a rude manner, and you're guilty, of course you are, or you're guilty if you think it. No, this is the police stepping inside your brain. And it's been observed in many cases of arrests. I don't like the way you're thinking. I mean, it's crazy. They can't lose. It's either unconscious bias, when you don't know what you're doing, or do you, or conscious bias. You cannot win with these people. Emperor's new clothes. It's madness.
Yeah, and to be quite honest with you, I think we need to start sacking some police commissioners who are actually promoting all this sort of stuff within their force, because it is terrible. And if I might just refer briefly to the case of Jennifer Melly, I think that highlights it, because she was a senior nurse in a hospital with a paedophile on the ward, who'd got some prison guards, I believe, with him. And he had over his bed a female name, but he was on a male ward because he was born a male. He decided he wanted to discharge himself. She, as a nurse, was informed that this patient wanted to discharge himself. So she said, right, I'll get on the phone to a doctor and see whether the doctor can come and see him. So she gets on the phone to a doctor and says, I've got somebody in my ward who wants to discharge himself, and can you please come? He overhears the conversation, which was maybe that was a mistake on her behalf. Maybe she should have done it somewhere in secret where he couldn't overhear her, but that's what happened. He overhears the conversation and starts going berserk and saying, I'm not a man, I'm a woman. How dare you refer to me as a man? And racially abused her, 3 times called her a nigger, and went up to her with looking as though he was possibly going to hit her. I mean, she actually said, I thought he was going to hit me. So he completely lost his temper. And the end result of it is this nurse has been assaulted, racially abused, but she is suspended for using the wrong pronouns on a patient, even though he was actually on a male ward. And it's like, what? What are you talking about? No sense that maybe this person who's racially abused a nurse should be charged with racial abuse. No, because he's a transgender. And if a transgender's been, has the wrong pronouns used against him, it's understandable that he's going to be angry and racially abuse somebody. It's just where is our law? Where is it? It's a complete mess. And frankly, what I talked about earlier about this, under 16s not being allowed to use social media. I mean, is that really what our priority is as a nation? Is that really what we want to stop? This is our priority. We allow people to steal from shops up to £200 and do nothing. But if an under 16 uses social media, then we got to stop it, and the police have got to arrest them. I mean, to me, it's just our whole priorities as a nation are just completely wrong.
No moral compass, Sid, and we know where the moral compass should come from. It's our Christian heritage, and it's gone. Don't be completely disheartened, because I mentioned this is throughout Europe. We got a story from Holland van Langenhove, chap taken to court, and he is of the great replacement or anti-great replacement condition that everybody's in at the moment. He said in the open air, migration is terrible. We've got housing shortages in Holland, strained welfare systems. So have we in UK. Rising criminality and cultural erosion. He criticised multiculturalism as incompatible with cohesive societies. And he was taken to court, and he prepared his brief rather well. And the judge actually had to agree with him. This is very scientifically presented. And fine, we accept that. €4,000 fine, sir. Well, it didn't get a prison sentence, but he still got fined because the judge was of that nature. And I lay at the feet of judges in Britain and now in Holland who are so taken up with this diversity, equality, inclusivity. And it reflects in their sentences. They're letting off people, even kids that have been raping girls multiple times, recently highlighted this week, and they get what is basically a sentence divided among about 12 of them, which was no sentence at all. What is wrong with the judges? Well, they've come from that generation, haven't they?
Yes, well, it's interesting how things are shifting. You see, while we're talking about this, I'd like to just mention this case that came up this last week, where we had people from Palestine Action that were sentenced this week for using a sledgehammer and breaking the spine of a police officer. And for doing that, they were given 7 years in prison, 7-year sentence, which, of course, with under Labour's new rules, they'll actually serve less than 3 years. But that's the sentence they were given. Zach Polanski, head of the Green Party, said it was disgusting that these people who were protesting against Israel and understandably got a bit carried away should be sentenced to prison for what they did. What? So as far as he's concerned, if you use a sledgehammer and break the spine of a police officer, you shouldn't be sent to prison. So this is what we're up against, you see. And, and you're talking about, okay, sometimes that attitude pervades right into the judiciary. And you suddenly find you've got, where you would expect somebody who breaks the spine of a police officer to get a considerable prison sentence. I mean, normally in the past, there've always been a higher sentence when you've assaulted a police officer than when you just assault somebody else in the street. But now it's because they were Palestine Action and they were protesting the actions of Israel. They shouldn't be given a prison sentence at all. I mean, what utter nonsense. And quite honestly, I think Zach Polanski is becoming the Tommy Robinson of the left. I mean, Tommy Robinson is known for engaging in violence, and I don't like it, and I think it's wrong. Zach Polanski is now becoming the Tommy Robinson of the left, where he's supporting violence of the left. So he's now becoming a dangerous individual, frankly.
Well, who's voting for them, Sid? I'm saying that, bit of a rhetorical question. I know who's voting for them. It's the 18 to 40-year-old women. What is into this?
Well, also, they've been going for the Muslim vote. And you see some of the Muslims are upset because Keir Starmer basically supported Israel over Gaza. So, and so they should never be supporting Israel over Gaza, even though he didn't actually do very much. But he didn't speak out against Israel. And it's like, so, but the Greens have made it very clear, and the Lib Dems as well, by the way. But the Greens have made it very clear that they support Hamas and they support Hezbollah, and they're totally opposed to anything that Israel does. And that encourages the Muslim vote. And they've been going for the Muslim vote, and they've succeeded in getting it. I mean, they won that Denton by-election simply because they got the Muslim vote there, and they all left the Labour Party.
Been rumoured, of course, that why the women are voting for Zach is because of breast enhancement. They've got a personal interest in this. I deny that. Having said that, let's move quickly on and back in one sense to our fighting in the aircraft industry. We have been failing for donkey's years, from the Harrier onwards, 20 years ago, to get a decent fighting aircraft. And other countries have, because it's very difficult. You have to plan a decade and a half in advance, and then quite often technology has overtaken it. So we decide to go and get the help of other nations. In this case, Britain is trying to get a new fighter off the ground with Italy and Japan. And Japan said to Keir Starmer, cough up your money. We can't do any more development on this. And so has Italy. Even though Italy have already paid 4 billion, we paid nothing. And the whole thing's on ice. Now, this is just one microcosm of what the problem is. We don't want to spend a dime. And I mentioned dime being America's. Is it any wonder that Sir Keir is being ignored by the president of the US? He's had enough. Don't blame him, Sid.
No, that's right. Well, I said earlier, I thought we've spent far too much on nuclear deterrent and not enough on ships and aircraft. And it's obviously not just this Labour government, but what I should say about this Labour government is that they inherited defence spending at 2.3%. Keir Starmer's repeatedly said, we've increased it. We've increased defence spending, but he hasn't. It's still 2.3%. And this is, again, part of Keir Starmer's dishonesty. What he means is that we are planning to increase defence spending from 2.3 to 2.6 sometime in 2027, in about a year's time. That's what he actually means. But he didn't say we are going to, in a year's time. He said we have, basically meaning we have announced we're increasing defence spending, though we haven't actually done it. And this dishonesty, I'm afraid, I find completely and utterly unacceptable, totally unacceptable. And the other thing, of course, is he said, oh, by 2050, we'll get it up to 5%, knowing full well that he'll be nowhere near government by 2030, let alone 2050.
Right, let's go and talk about retirement, sitting back and enjoying ourselves in our later life. It's come about that it now, if you want comfortable existence, you're going to talk about £1.2 million pension pot. Now, yes, you will not worry when you go into Tesco's, and you won't be carefully looking at the prices. You can go on a couple of 4-star holidays a year, get a car every 5 years, a new car, and you can relax, which is fine. That's called that's the target for people. £1.2 million to get that, Sid. That's never been anywhere near £1 million in times gone past, but that is what will happen. Now, a number of things here. A, we're living longer and in better health. We can't blame the government for that one. But they've made such a mess of pensions over the years, Sid. They don't want to realise their obligations.
Yeah, I think 1.2 million is too high. I think 500,000 will be enough for an adequate part, bearing in mind that you've also got the state pension. So if you've got a private pension running alongside the state pension, and you've got 500,000 in your pension pot, you should be able to buy a decent pension with that.
Just to intervene, Sid, it's pitched three ways, this ability to retire. One, the big one, very comfortably. Secondly, if you want to live off £62,000 a year, or if you want to live off £22,000 a year, you can. But that is the bare minimum, 22,000. And if you think about it, with having to pay anything from council tax to everyday running of your life, that is a minimum, isn't it?
Well, a lot depends. I mean, obviously, if you're a couple and, you've both got an income and your mortgage is paid off and you've got a state pension, if your private pension brings in 20,000 a year on top of the state pension, then you're probably, and you've got no mortgage to pay, you're probably living reasonably comfortably, quite honestly. But nevertheless, I mean, you do need to have a decent pension pot, or to have some means of having an income in retirement. I mean, what I did actually later on in life, I mean, I had a pension from when I was working for the Prudential, but later on in life, what I did when I was running my own business as an independent financial advisor, I bought an office, which I bought it without having any loan on it. And my plan was always, I ran my financial advice business from the office, but then when I retired, my plan was always to rent out the office and to use the rental income as pension income, which is working fine. I mean, I'm actually getting now, it's actually £880 a month from that, as well as from private pension, as well as from state pension, which means I'm fine. I mean, I don't actually need a lot more income. So, it's there's different ways of planning for retirement, but certainly everyone does need to plan for retirement and need to think about what income they're going to have. And it's better earlier than later, because if you if you plan, what you get in pension pot in your 20s and 30s is going to go a lot further than what you get in your 40s and 50s, because at that point there's a lot more time to have the money invested and for it to grow.
We're going to spend a little more time on our footy situation because we've got cricket to consider, Sid. Now, lots of things are coming out. Want your views on this about the England team? It's clear they've gone with the rugby infection and become some boozy blighters whenever they go abroad, especially. It was famous in the Antipodes, and they reaped the benefit of failure, and it got out of hand. Ben Stokes is, one on his own. He's always been a bit of a rebel, and that's obviously gone into the team. And they've got, I repeat, perhaps what they deserved. Now he's been sidelined, and it looks as though they're going back to Joe Root. Now, wow, he didn't do very well last time. He lost his batting prowess completely, having the responsibility of the team.
Yes, I think it's only a temporary measure they're going back to Joe Root. I don't think he's going to be the permanent captain, but as a temporary measure, they've gone back to Joe Root, which I must admit, it surprised me because he didn't do well as a captain. I mean, I remember Mike Brearley, when he was a brilliant England captain. No, he wasn't a very good batsman, and they came back to him, and when they were in trouble, and they literally brought him back as because he was such a good captain. And it's better to bring back somebody who is very good captain than just to make your best player captain, which is, I'm afraid, what they've done with Joe Root. Whether there's somebody else there in the team that could do the job better, I honestly don't know. I mean, I think they tried Harry Brook in the short over part of the game, but he himself has also been in trouble, I believe, with staying out late at night. So it's difficult, isn't it? But yeah, character and ability to captain is an art on itself, which is actually different from the ability to bat or bowl, frankly. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. They've also brought in this new team, three players with no caps at all. And there's two players there which have only got one cap. So we've actually got five players that are virtually completely new players. So, well, it'll be interesting to see how they go. I mean, if they're playing Australia, you'd be extremely concerned. But playing New Zealand, we'll see what happens. I mean, it may be a good time to breed new players.
Yeah, I'm thinking of discipline here and the value of having the three lions. And it's changed. It changed about 10, 15 years ago when if your wife was pregnant, you didn't have to go to Australia because you needed to be back home. And it's happened again with our very good wicketkeeper batsman, and he's not playing in the second test against New Zealand because his wife might produce. Now, that would have not happened in the good old days. You're playing for your country. Stiff upper lip.
Well, frankly, I think that's a good thing. I think it's the case that she has already produced. She's now got a 1 day old baby. But I think it's a good thing, frankly, that a father who's just got a brand new baby has some time off to be with the baby and to be with his wife. I think that's very good and very, very important for family values. So I'm afraid that's something I totally support.
You support paternity leave up to 6 and 9 months, then, do you, Sid?
No, not that long. But frankly, when I was a trade unionist, one of the things that I was very much in favour for was paternity leave. But I think paternity leave for 2 weeks or 3 weeks is excellent idea, and cementing the relationship between mother, father, and child is very important. And if you've got an absent father because he's busy playing cricket, frankly, I think that's wrong.
There you go. Let's go to football before we get into more trouble. And It's not very healthy being a Christian, Sid, and a footballer. Crystal Palace, I'm thinking of Mark Guehi. Is that how you pronounce it?
He's
He's
he's now at is it Man City, I believe.
yes, I think he's had transfer. I'm going to say problems. Perhaps it won't be. He wrote "I love Jesus" and "Jesus loves you" on his captain's armband. He got sanctioned by the footballing authorities. So did Cody Gakpo for Liverpool, because he pulled his shirt "I belong to Jesus" during a goal celebration. Nottingham Forest striker Taiwo sanctioned for displaying a Christian message and Bible verse. It goes beyond that, goes into Europe. Football authorities there. And you've got a Serbian team, Red Star Belgrade. There's a good old name for you. Fined €40,000 after supporters on the terrace displayed a giant banner of Jesus from the stands. That's a lot of money, €40,000.
Yeah, I mean that's ridiculous. And by the way, going back to Mark Guehi, see, he was forced to wear a pride armband. It wasn't just a captain's armband, it was a pride armband. And he was told he had to wear it. So he wore it as he was told to, and wrote actually what he actually wrote on it was "I love Jesus." And yeah, like you say, he was sanctioned for it. But what is wrong to me is if you say, well, we don't want to bring religion into football, then what are you doing bringing the New Age religion into football? Because a gay pride armband is promoting the New Age religion. You know, it's not just somehow, you know, a gay supporting gay pride is impartial. It's supporting as a religious point of view. And as Christians, we believe that homosexuality is sin. And incidentally, the Muslims also believe that homosexuality is sin. So the majority of people in the world believe that homosexuality is sin. So when you're forcing someone to wear a gay pride armband, you're forcing them to promote what is a minority viewpoint. And, you know, I'm sorry, you can't say we're forcing you to promote this viewpoint, but we're not going to allow you to promote that viewpoint. Either all religion is banned from football, or you are allowed to have religious symbols, including gay pride armbands, one or the other. At the moment, they just want to promote their religion and oppose the Christian religion. Sorry, no.
Yes, indeed. And having said that, Sid, there's going to be an important event in Seattle, on the 26th, I think it is. Yeah, it is. While Iran are playing Egypt, apparently, significant a game maybe. It's part of their pride celebration the whole week, and they've enveloped the match with pride to promote pride. Now, is that going to be stopped? No, they'd sooner stop the Christians.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm talking about. You know, either you say, sorry, we're not allowing any religious imagery in football, or you say, yeah, okay, religious imagery is fine. And if you say religious imagery is fine, then you can have a pride football match. But you can also have people saying, I belong to Jesus, and praying and openly praying and openly declaring their faith. You can have a Christian football match. You know, it's one or the other. You can't say we're only promoting this religion, not that one. I'm sorry, no.
The FA have banned, of course, our own supporters over there saying rude things about Keir Starmer. If you're waving a flag, it should be just the flag, the St. George or the Union flag. Don't write something about Keir Starmer. You agree with that?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you see, if people are booing Donald Trump, it's like, oh, fantastic, well done. You know, Donald Trump got booed. It's news. It's wonderful. But when they were shouting, you know, F Joe Biden, you know, or Let's Go Brandon, which was supposedly the equivalent, you know, people are like, oh, we've got to silence this, we've got to stop this, it's rude, it's disgusting. And I'm afraid it's the same with Starmer. I mean, if they were, if we had Nigel Farage as our prime minister and people were shouting, were booing Nigel Farage, they wouldn't mind in the slightest. But Keir Starmer's on the left, so we have to protect him. I mean, it's just the nonsense, I'm afraid, of the politics of football.
Yeah. Well, it's no longer that you can say politics and religion don't mix. It's now politics, religion, and sport. Where are we? In a chaotic society, said, well, you've got to go. But chaos keeps coming out of the situation that we are in Great Britain, especially, and in other countries as well. Is there a resolution? You've only got a minute here, Sid.
Well, I believe in freedom of speech unless people are engaged in violence. And I'm totally opposed to any violence in politics, in sport, whatever it is. And in the past, we've had a lot of violence in football matches. I'm totally opposed to that. But when it comes to freedom of speech, I think we should have freedom of speech. People should be allowed to display whatever they want to display.
Okay, there you go. He's done it in 45 seconds. Well done. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.